Hey guys, how's it going? This is Austin Reed, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to take construction supplier lists and organize them nice and tidy in a neat dashboard for you and your sales team to use. Now, we've worked with a few different businesses to solve this problem, and recently we just did an outreach campaign to construction supply companies, and we found that this problem is not just them, but it's actually across the entire industry. What we find is a lot of these wholesale suppliers will send out PDFs, Excel sheets, they'll have their own dealer portals and things like that. All of it is in different formats, they all have slightly different information, and it's just really hard for the teams to get together, organize the information, know what's going on, and be able to use that information properly to then do their job. So in this video, we're going to solve all of that and more. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, a quick disclaimer. This video is a high-level overview video designed for executives to implement these strategies directly in their companies without a technical headache. Now, if you don't have the resources to hire a small team or to get this done internally within your own company and you just want to do it yourself, I do have other videos on my channel that cover similar topics that you guys can check out. Now, the first major problem that we encounter is all the information is scattered in different places. So the first major problem that we need to fix is we need to consolidate all that information, all those PDFs, all the Excel sheets, the portal, all down into one single location so we can organize it. So how do we do that? Well, a really easy low-hanging fruit way of doing that is to simply just set up a drive folder where your suppliers can upload their Excel sheets and their PDFs. That being said, a lot of suppliers are not really willing to do that. Now, I know I'm not covering the dealer portals yet, so let's just put that aside for a minute. I'll get to that later. But what we found is a lot of these suppliers, they actually send most of their files over a simple email. Now, that is a really good thing because you could really easily just set up an email account only for dealing with these suppliers, and you can create a listener using something like N8N or Python that will actually listen to these emails, and if they have an attachment that is of said type, Excel or PDF, it'll automatically take that attachment and drop it into a Google Drive folder for you. Well, that's great, Austin, but I have no idea how to do that. That's okay. You're not supposed to. I'll show you guys here in a minute how you would hire a team to be able to achieve some of these things. So, all right, we've got the Excel sheets in the drive, we've got the PDFs in the drive, but how do we deal with these infamous dealer portals? Well, one really easy way to do that would be to ask these suppliers if they actually have API access to be able to get product information via API. Now, if they do, that's great. That makes your job really easy. Then you can use Python, N8N, JavaScript, or a plethora of other tools to interact with that system and import that information. But if not, there are still some workaround ways to grab that information. For that, you can use tools like Selenium, Puppeteer, or Beautiful Soup to get the job done. Now, what are these tools? You can basically just imagine a browser that flips through the pages, and as it flips through the pages, it just saves the information. Now, Selenium actually is a browser. It's a Chrome browser. You can see it as it's working, and as it flips through the pages, that's exactly what it does. It just saves the information. You can get past login screens, you can grab whatever you want, and you don't need API access. So if you're starting to get a headache with all the different technologies we're talking about and you just want to get this job done, well, that's okay because we're experts at this and we would love to help you out. So if you just want to get the job done, go ahead and click the website link down below. So now we have all the information consolidated down into one single place, and all we have to do is start to organize it so we can further process it down. So how do we do that? Well, one thing that I always like to do is I always like to take one item of each type from each supplier, so it won't be that many items, and put it in an Excel sheet and add as many columns as you need to be able to enter all of that information in to the Excel. If the item types are extremely different and they have extremely different types of data, then maybe try separating them into different sheets. Why do you do this? Well, because with some suppliers, you'll find that there's information you actually just don't need. And with other suppliers, you'll find that, oh, there's a little bit of extra information here, but only with this supplier that I would like. And so you want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of that information. And basically what you're doing while you're doing that is you're building a structure for a database. Now, it doesn't have to be a database. In a really quick and dirty world, you can just use Excel sheets, and a lot of people do. But technically an Excel sheet is a glorified database anyway. So you might as well think about it in that sort of way. So now if all you want to do is organize it down into one simple Excel sheet, well then at this point you're already done. But if you actually want to build a dashboard, then you have to build a database no matter what. And so now we have to talk about different types of databases that you might be interested in using. I recommend using a Postgres database if you're going to build a slightly larger application. If it's a small application, you could get away with doing something like Supplier, which does use Postgres actually. But the cool thing about Supplier is it's got a nice UI that kind of looks like an Excel sheet where people can jump in and look at it like a normal person, and you don't need a programmer to jump in and look at the back end of things. Now, we have used both. We've used multiple other different databases as well. It really just kind of depends on what you're comfortable with and what the use case is. But for most purposes, Supabase or Postgres is good enough to do most things. Well, now we have to talk about building the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the quick and dirty solution, and then we'll get into the more complex solution later. So the quick and dirty solution would be to use Streamlit with Python. Now, Streamlit is a Python module where in just a few lines of code, you can quickly build up dashboards that interact with data, and they look pretty clean for the most part. There are some downsides to Streamlit. It is slightly error prone, not a lot, just a little bit, and it is a little bit insecure. But for building a quick dashboard for an internal company that's not going to be used by hundreds of people, but only maybe like 10 people, you're probably not going to encounter any errors at all. And there's almost no reason to secure it in the first place. So it is a really great solution. Now, if you wanted a more robust application that was more secure and you could use across multiple different locations, that was pro, and it looked exactly like you wanted, that's a slightly different conversation. So there is three different portions, three different steps to build an app like that. The first step is the UX UI perspective, where you guys determine what you would like to see. You meet with the designer who does preferably Figma, and you would talk to him and you'd tell him what you want. And then he would build something that looks similar, a prototype of some sorts. You guys would go through the prototype back and forth until you come up with something that you actually like. Once you come up with that thing that you actually like, you need to then go find some front-end developers. Now, you can use multiple different technologies for this. We use React.js for that, but there's also Angular, and there's a lot of technologies. For the most part, you don't really need to know too much about the technologies. You just need to make sure that they build the page exactly the same as the design has been built. Now, of course, just a static page isn't going to help you very much, so you actually do need a back-end developer. Their job is to take those Excel sheets, consolidate that information down into a nice, formidable database, and create API endpoints for the front end to be able to interact with the back end. Now, that static page all of a sudden is interactable. Different technologies you can use for that is something like Django or Node. Then finally, you can have the front-end engineer integrate the API endpoints that the back-end engineer created, and then do some testing. Once the testing's done, you will have an app that is completely customized, safe, and secure for your company with all of the supplier's information that you need directly in the application. Now you'll be able to have a portal where every time a supplier updates their website, or they email you a file, or they drop a file in your drive, it automatically gets updated to your system. Now you can take that a step further by integrating AI and getting some advanced analytics across all the suppliers and their data, even get some historical data and get some data about what's selling more, what's selling less, data about trends of what time of year things sell more. Now, that being said, I wanted to give a quick overview of what a development team to get this done would look like. Now, if you don't have any websites to scrape, one backend engineer who's fluent in Python or JavaScript or any other backend language should be able to get that done in tandem with one front-end engineer as well, and a UI developer who does designs. That being said, you don't really want to hire a full stack guy I kind of encourage against doing that. And the reason why is because it's really hard to be good at everything, right? So it's better to find an engineer who is good at one thing. Try to find someone who does the design and does front end and does back end. You're going to come out with a really bad product. Trying to find someone who does back end and front end sometimes works out, but most of the times we find it doesn't work out very much. That being said, if you really want to get the application done quickly, it's better to stack on multiple developers, maybe 2 back end, 2 front end developers, 1 designer. And then of course, if you want to scrape the website dealer portals, you're going to need a scraping engineer. Now, of course, all this really just depends on your project and what exactly it is you want to build and whether or not you're actually building the portal or you're just doing some simple N8N work and N8N automations or anything in between. Now, I hope that this video helped you guys out. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to help you guys for free, or just leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to respond to your comments. And if you guys want to see some videos about how I actually do the scraping, I do have some videos on my channel down below. And you guys have a wonderful day.